As consumers, we are bombarded by it at every turn, like the Incredible Hulk being bombarded by gamma rays. But what makes some media endure, while others are banished to the forgotten black hole of obscurity, never to be heard from again? Who or what decides this? Hetero life mates Steve and Yahel want to know, and they want to know now. This is Obscurity Now. All right, and what's up, Obscurians? It's time for another episode of Obscurity Now, the show that takes a look at weird and almost forgotten pieces of media. Then we try to decide if they should be remembered for all of human history or tossed in the black void of obscurity, never to be heard from again. My name is Steve, and with me is the guy who just keeps showing up, just like the crow himself. It's
Yahel. How are you doing, Steve?
I'm doing all right. Just flying high off the knowledge that I know that I live in one of Jeff Goldblum's former apartments.
Yes. I just heard about that, Steve.
Yeah, word.
I wonder what parts of himself he's left behind.
Well, I mean, he was the Fly. I mean, maybe he came back here and melted, like, you know.
Maybe he just came.
No.
Who knows?
Wow, way to clean it up, because there was a.
Clean it up.
Well,
if you think about it, Steve, certainly he had sex in that apartment.
One would assume, but
So-
certainly, because it was back. He said he moved. This was his first Hollywood apartment. Just for backstory here, my landlord, he sent it to this clip. He sent it to me. I guess Goldblum was hosting Jimmy Kimmel or something like that. He was sort of like a fill-in host or something. He took, I guess, some people from studio audience on like one of those cheesy Hollywood tours, and he's like driving by in the bus, and he's like, "There's my first apartment that I moved out to when I first moved out here in 1974," and he pointed right at my apartment. It's so weird.
Oh man! And then the camera zooms in on the window, and it's just you like masturbating in the window.
Yeah, looking sad. Yeah, using my tears for lube. Yeah,
While looking at a picture of Jeff Goldblum, just coincidentally.
Yes, very. I would say I was embarrassed, but no, I just like the attention. That's all.
Yeah.
But no, yeah, the offers have been flying in. They want me to be in the Fly remake. They want. What else has he been in? Jurassic Park, of course. Yeah. Nah. Only the Fly. Who cares about?
You can join the MCU. Isn't he in like one of the four movies?
God, that was so. He was like some sort of god or supreme being, and it was like Guardians of the Galaxy 2, I think. And now there's like some terrible-looking Netflix comedy where he plays Zeus. So basically, I think what the media is trying to tell us is that we should all worship Jeff Goldblum as our own personal God and savior. Whether you want to do that or not is up to you.
Well, worst deities to choose.
It's true. But speaking of messiahs, we're here to talk about Eric Draven, a.k.a. the Crow, right? I mean, because he got resurrected. He's here to save us all from the people who murdered him or something.
Yeah. I did not know when you sent this to me. I think you might have mentioned either in a text or maybe somewhere that it was about the Crow, and I just assumed it was going to be like either like some kind of not fan-made adaptation, something licensed or official or canon. So I was quite surprised.
Yeah, no, we're going deep in the weeds on this one. This is James Auber's Crow, which is a fan film basically made by two guys over 4 years. They started when they were 14 making it, but it was weird. All right, so somebody told me that it was good. Or I heard that it was, or there were good things about it, and maybe there are. Don't say anything.
Was that person's name David Ullman?
David Ullman? You mean director of James Auber's Crow and the star of James Auber's Crow?
Yeah, is it Aubert or Obar? Because it's Obarr.
Yeah, you're right. It's Obar. But Aubert sounds so much more fun and cuddly.
It does sound.
Which I don't know if you looked up. I looked up a picture of James O'Barr, and he looks like the least fun, cuddly person you could imagine. And it's not even like a black and white headshot of him looking all like. It's just like it's like someone snapped a Polaroid of him smoking a cigarette like on his like
Oh
15-minute.
yeah, I see. I see the smoking picture where he's wearing like the USMC hat.
Yeah, yeah, that's it. That's it.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
But
it might just be the picture. But I see a picture of him smiling, and it looks fine. I see a couple pictures of him
Yeah,
smiling.
he must have gotten
It's
a
fine.
residual check from the original Crow movie.
Yeah.
Which I would like to know. What are your sort of Crow memories, be it from the original movie, the comic? What's your experience with the Crow?
I never read the comic. As far as the movie goes, the Brandon Lee movie, I'm assuming you're referring to the. I know that there was like a sequel
Yeah,
too,
the
but
original.
well, I remember seeing the trailer, and I remember thinking, this looks kind of stupid, and I never watched it.
Oh, what? You've never seen
Yeah,
it?
I've
But
never seen the Crow. I have no interest in the
I'm
Crow.
surprised all those goth girls let them enter you, having knowing you've never seen the Crow.
I mean, yeah, it makes me stand out amongst the other goth
You're
men.
so goth, you haven't seen the Crow.
Yeah, it's not goth enough for me.
Oh, oh, Yahel, the fact that you haven't seen The Crow makes you more goth than anyone else I've ever met. Please ravage my body. That's how I see it going
Yeah,
down in
and I
Ybor
mean,
City.
what we watched, what we're covering today probably isn't the best thing to go off of
Oh
when.
no. Oh no. Wait,
However,
wait, wait. So you're saying you've never seen the movie, but you watched this movie first? James O'Barr's?
you made me.
Oh my god. This is awful.
But from what I've read, in the YouTube comments and a couple other like internet message boards and stuff, this fan film that we watched today more closely follows the graphic novel or comic or whatever than the Brandon Lee movies. So even though obviously you're not going to get the same production values and or acting, I'm sure, apparently it follows the story more closely. Would you say that that's correct?
Well, all right. So I've never actually read like the comic or graphic novel all the way through.
Oh, interesting, interesting.
You haven't even seen the movie. Please, here, let me continue.
Yeah, but you're the one like choosing this as a topic. I thought you were a real crowhead.
Look, I no, look, I'm trying to tell you my experience with the Crow here. If you'll allow it, may I
Go
continue?
ahead, go ahead. Steve, ever since you found out that you're living in Jeff Goldblum's old apartment, you've really gotten an attitude.
Yeah, you're damn right I have. All right.
No, go ahead, go
Okay,
ahead.
so I remember. All right, the movie came out in the '90s. I'm really surprised that you've never seen it because this. I feel
I knew
like
you would be.
this is something that would be right up your alley,
Do you think
especially.
I would like the movie?
Yeah.
Because I don't think I would like
It
it.
is a all right. So yeah, I know the aspects that you would not like, and I feel like the movie that we're watching here, James O'Barr's The Crow, has a lot more of like the sort of religious iconography and Catholic sort of imagery. I feel like they toned down a little on that in the Brandon Lee movie, so not to offend all the Christians during the day back in 19 whatever
Hmm.
93 or 94 when it came out. Because yeah, there was definitely some cringy stuff about James O'Barr's Crow that we're about to talk. But anyway, I remember thumbing through the graphic novel when the movie came out because of course it showed up in my local comic book store, and I thought the comic book is in black and white. I didn't really feel like it was for me. I did go see the movie when it was released though. I'm pretty sure that was one of those father son movie things. Because of course, I mean, I was a
Did,
huge
did did you and your dad like wear like white and black clown makeup when you
no.
went
I
to
think
fully bond
I
or?
think he just viewed it as just an action movie. I mean, at that age, I didn't even know what like goth was. I just thought we're watching, a comic book movie of a guy who just looks like a mime, basically a
Hmm.
mime who kicks people's asses. And
Yeah.
like I've always been a big fan of Bruce Lee. So, and I don't think I'd ever seen a Brandon Lee movie, or at least was consciously aware that he was in it. You ever see that Dolph Lundgren B movie classic, Showdown in Little Tokyo? You ever see that one?
Oh man, yeah. Like I don't remember much about it though. I saw it so
Well,
long
it
ago.
co-stars a pre-Crow Brandon Lee, and he's
Oh
good.
wow, I didn't even realize.
And I remember I definitely saw that before I saw The Crow. But really, I was just like, oh, this looks like an interesting movie, and I saw it and I enjoyed it. I think people say it's a perfect movie. I don't know if it would hold up for me as much in 2024. I remember it had some awesome cinematography. And of course, it's sad that Brandon Lee died on set. Like that was like the big story coming off of
Yeah.
that. But yeah, like it didn't make me want to go do a fan film for 4 years, and it definitely didn't turn me on to the goth scene. I didn't like watch The Crow and decided I wanted to put a bunch of eyeliner and like white powder makeup or start listening to The Cure or anything like that. I just thought it was a pretty good action movie. But I guess for a lot of people, it's like a real cultural landmark or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, I will say I haven't seen the movie, but I mean I've seen like clips from it and scenes
Mhm.
from the movie. Uh and that's really what cemented that I don't want to watch it.
Right.
Um
Besides,
yeah,
we've already experienced the best possible Crow there could ever be in
right, especially now.
Steve Borden's portrayal, aka the wrestler
Yeah,
Sting.
exactly. Like watching this movie today, that would be like drinking Coke and then switching to RC Cola,
Oh,
you know.
don't you dare talk trash about RC Cola. You're
You know
like,
what's funny
you're
is I
really
mean
on.
I really don't dislike RC
I know
Cola.
you don't. You're just trying to get under my skin. And you really got some attitude problem here, mister. First not watching The Crow and now insulting RC Cola. You're on thin ice,
It-
buddy.
did you see that the new Crow movie? Did you see its Rotten Tomatoes score?
Oh, it's tanking, and that's the reason why we're even discussing this film is because that's
Yeah.
coming out.
Well, it's gone up. When last because yesterday it was like at 7%.
Mhm.
This is for the critics. There's no audience score yet,
The
but and
critics that they
now it
paid, sure.
well now it's up to 20%.
Okay, so let me ask
That's
you:
61 reviews.
are you going to go, or are you interested at all in seeing that?
It's an hour and 51 minutes, so no.
Well, what is the right runtime for Mr. Busy Yahel Velasquez?
Well, I think as I've mentioned many times before, anytime a movie is over 90 minutes, I'm already like leery about it because I find it rare that a movie, once it goes over 90 minutes, it tends to be bad. It tends to be too long,
Okay,
feel too long.
all right, I agree with you, but then I've got a follow up here. Have you seen Deadpool and Wolverine?
I have not. But
That's too bad. I was hoping we could discuss it, but it's 2 hours. Just letting you know.
well, I'll watch it when it comes to streaming or something.
Yeah.
I don't want to be around people in theaters.
Oh well, we went
Uh,
yesterday at a matinee. There was
oh, that's a good idea.
one dude all the way in the front, but I am going to save my review for now. And when you watch it,
Well, did you like it? I mean,
I thought it was okay.
all right, that's high praise from Steve for a Marvel movie,
I mean,
actually.
I could definitely go into I mean, it's pretty much what I expected, to be honest. Like, of
Yeah.
course, everyone at my work, they talk about it like it's. Wait, I can't say Citizen Kane or Casablanca because you'll take a dump on those. What is one of your favorite movies anyway? Just
Like old movie, like the
any of
classic
all time.
Metropolis.
Metropolis?
Yeah.
Okay, I wasn't expecting that. Okay, well,
Is that not a good movie? A good
no, no, no,
classic?
no, no. Yeah, that is. I mean, I just like. What is
Now
your
you've got me thinking that I've mixed up the movie. Let me look it up.
What is your favorite? Like, what are your like top
Metropolis, yeah.
three, four, five movies of all time? I'm just curious.
Oh, of all time?
Like, what's your? I mean, I.
That's not like a Star Trek movie.
Oh God. All right, all right, all right. Before we get too off track,
Yeah, we're way off
yeah,
track.
let's jump into the Obscuritron, and then we'll
Yeah.
continue this train wreck. All right, here we go.
Welcome to your feature presentation.
1 second, Mr. Goldblum. I'm trying to do a podcast. Hold on.
I will say I would rather see the original 1994 Crow movie over the new one,
Yes.
based on the trailers that I've seen
Oh
for the
yeah,
new
it
one.
looks pretty
It
bad,
looks
and I feel like they have the wrong guy being the Crow. You have to have like a
he's a great actor, but
yeah, he's pretty good. I don't know why they Hollywood is like determined to make him an action hero. I don't know if you watched that Sam Raimi produced like Boy Kills World, but
no,
that
look
was
bad.
it was. Um, but yeah, but yeah, he is not the right person to play the Crow. His haircut looks stupid. The makeup looks stupid. Um,
Yeah, I think this is like one of those roles where the aura of the actor matters more maybe than their acting ability.
I could see that. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they should have gotten Steve Borden from 20 years ago.
Hey, he's not a bad actor,
As
as
we
we found
saw,
out.
yeah, make sure you guys check out our episode on God. What was even the name of that movie?
Shutter Speed.
Shutter Speed. Thank you.
You know what's funny is like how many times do you mention something that we've reviewed, and I'm like, what? What was that called? We reviewed that, but this one right off the bat, Shutter Speed, with
Well,
Steve Borden and Daisy Fuentes,
yes, right. A classic movie right up there with Metropolis and Pulp Fiction.
and Citizen Kane,
Yes, of course.
which I'm not a fan of, but Casablanca I do like.
All right, I'm glad to hear that. But okay, so all right, I think we've discussed The Crow enough. Did you? All right, so you never watched even the sequels or even the TV show starring Mark Dacascos?
No, but I do see that Ernie Hudson is in the 1994 Crow movie, so my likelihood of watching it just went up.
You should. I mean, all right. So you,
Oh, Tony Todd, Star Trek's Tony Todd is in
I
this.
think you
Okay.
mean Candyman's Tony Todd.
No, that's Worf's brother, Kern.
All right, let's talk about this fan. Oh yeah, and there were two other sort of follow-ups that I wanted to ask. Do you remember the first time you ever watched a fan film at all? And secondly, have you ever watched anything that was shot on video like this?
Yeah, I have definitely watched the shot on video. I really can't remember the first time I watched a fan film. I mean, I tend to avoid them. I have watched maybe like 10 or so Star Trek fan films, but mostly because they tend to be short, like 15, 20 minutes.
Hmm.
There's a couple big budget ones though that actually has like they've hired like Star Trek actors to be in them and stuff.
Mm.
But the story and one of them is even directed by Tuvok, but they tend to be pretty bad story wise, and the non-Trek actors tend to not be very good. So yeah, I mean, I tend to avoid them, and I will say, as far as a fan film goes, this is probably one of the better ones I've seen.
It's true.
Um,
It's true.
I'm not saying it's good. I'm not saying
Mhm.
it's bad, but I mean, as far as fan films go, this is one of the better ones. I will tell you, I don't know if I've mentioned this before. I feel like I have the one of the best Star Trek fan film I've seen. I don't know if you'd call it a fan film. It's a porn parody of TNG. But
Yeah.
here's the thing. Someone uploaded it on YouTube with the porns he's taken out, and it's just a good Star Trek. It's a good story, and the acting's not bad.
Yeah, one of these days we're gonna review those porn parodies.
But what about you? I have a feeling that you have delved into quite a few fan films.
I mean, I think I feel pretty much the same way about them as you do. The first one that I remember watching is the Batman Dead End. You know, back in early 2000s, where it was basically Batman versus Alien versus Predator versus Joker. Have you ever seen that
Oh
one?
God, yeah,
I
yeah,
thought that one was pretty good.
yeah.
At least as far as like the production.
They got like the production and the look of
Mhm.
things was pretty decent.
Yeah, and I remember thinking that was pretty cool at the time. I saw for a while there was like a fake trailer for a movie called Grayson, which is kind of like a What If or
Oh yeah, yeah.
Elseworlds. Yeah, that one was pretty good. Terrible acting,
Hmm.
but again, like usually they do a good job with like the look, but then like they don't really bother getting actors or at least paying them
Yeah.
with these kind of things. And then
What do you think? And I do think fan films have evolved a lot from the 90s to now, just in because what a consumer can buy as far as a camera, a decent quality camera,
mhm,
and the price has come down so much that a lot of times they don't, a fan film now generally won't look as bad as one from the
right.
90s just because of that alone,
Hmm. Oh,
right?
sure.
Because it's like camera sensors now are so sensitive that you can be kind of shitty at lighting a scene and maybe underlit it, but the sensors are so sensitive that it'll still look all right, you know.
Absolutely. Yeah. But
But what do you think is like the thing that most fan films like fail at
mm,
or fail
um
at the most?
well, I just mentioned,
Story.
yeah, I mean
Let me
you
give you a few options:
okay.
story, acting, cinematography, and or production.
Well, I guess again it depends on the era. Um like I think nowadays they get the look and the production right. Like they always seem to manage to find, you know, cosplayers or costume people to make like decent costumes. But yeah, I would say usually the acting. And as far as story goes, like fan films are usually so short. There's never really any kind of deep, in-depth story.
Mhm.
It's always like, oh look, we're doing this that's never been really
Yeah.
filmed before. And yeah, and usually they get someone who hasn't really acted before. So I'll say acting.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah, I'm man, I'm torn between acting and story. If I had to pick one, I would probably say story.
Mm,
And I don't necessarily think that you're wrong for thinking acting. I can see how somebody could think that too. But the reason why I say story is if a story is good and well written, I can overlook bad acting.
mm-hmm.
So the fact that so many fan films are, I'm just like, oh, that was not good.
Mm-hmm.
To me, it comes down a lot to the story. Like this isn't a fan film, but Primer, have you ever seen
Oh
Primer,
yeah,
the time
sure.
travel movie?
Mm-hmm.
To me, it's a great movie
Mm-hmm.
because the story is really good.
Mm-hmm.
The acting is not that great,
Right.
really. And sometimes it's pretty amateurish,
Sure.
but the story is so good and engrossing that I don't even care. And that's a very low budget film.
Right, but again, we're talking about, I assume Primer is 90 minutes, otherwise you wouldn't have watched it, versus 10-minute short or 10 15. I mean, I've never watched a fan film that's longer than, I mean, maybe 30 minutes. Have you?
Oh, really? I mean, yeah. I've like I said, I mean, the ones that I've watched a few that are like an hour to an hour and a half.
Really? Okay, then I could
Uh,
understand where you could actually get in there and see if the story had any kind of meat to it or not.
yeah, yeah. There was like a Star Wars one a long time ago I watched.
Mm-hmm.
Now that I'm remembering, that had like a pretty decent budget for like the effects. Like it looked decent and stuff, but the story and acting was like atrocious. This is like I think like 2010 or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Early days of the,
And I've seen it.
yeah, I gotcha.
Yeah, like I said, I've seen a few Star Trek ones
Mm-hmm.
where actually there's a whole Star Trek series called Star Trek Continues that's they rebuilt all the sets from the 60s
Hmm.
and basically just finish out the last two seasons of the show that never happened. And on that one, like it looks phenomenal. The stories are phenomenal. The acting is very hit or miss, but that I've been watching because they get everything right. It looks straight out of the
Wow.
60s. And the stories are good. And they actually brought back a lot of like people that acted. They're like follow-ups to
Nice.
the shows from the original series. They brought back some of those actors.
And see,
But anyways, we're way off
well,
track. Although I don't think it's gonna take too long to go over this
yeah,
movie.
so I think it's okay to talk. And I was going to say, and if you're going to like continue like a show or something that had gotten canceled like too soon or anything really, a comic book series that, maybe ended on a cliffhanger and you wanted to add closure as a fan or whatever, then I think it's like a pretty decent reason to do a fan film.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, that makes a lot more sense to me than I
which
want to make my own version of
Right.
this.
And that's the question that I have when I'm watching James O'Barr's The Crow, because yes, like the sort of initial, we're gonna go off the graphic novel, not the movie. Like that's what I heard as well. But then when I was watching it, I was like, no, no, that's taken like straight from the film, which
Well, yeah, and in the YouTube comments, they basically said they like mixed both of them.
Right, right, right. So I mean, basically, as I was watching, I was just sort of trying to question like what their real like,
What's the point?
yeah, the point and the motivation here. And I just think that these two guys, or maybe just the one guy, Ullman, just watched The Crow and it was just so mesmerized by it. He was like, I want to be a crow too.
And in all fairness, I mean he's 14.
Right, right. They both
And
are. Yeah.
and I don't know if at least when they started this, and I don't know if they had done stuff before. I don't know if you know if they had like made like little
Yeah,
movies
they said
before.
that they shot around like their parents' house, basically, just
I,
most of
I
it.
kind of had a feeling because I mean I will say that there's some like you do see nuggets of like something there in some of the scenes, the way that they compose some of the shots, some of the cinematography, some of the camera movements. So sometimes you're like, especially I would say the first 15 minutes,
Hmm.
to me is like way better than the next 45 minutes
Yeah,
as far as the way it's shot.
right.
Um, and I know I was reading through that David Ullman website, and he was saying that they had issues with people not showing up for scenes, so they'd have to like stop for months and blah blah blah. So I'm sure as filming went on, they probably were just more like, all right, well, this is what we can get, kind of a thing,
Sure, yeah. Welcome to low zero budget filmmaking. I've been
Yeah.
there. I know they're
I
paid.
mean, if this had been kind of to your point, Steve, if this had been like a 15 to 20-minute short,
Hmm.
I would have probably really enjoyed it because the first 15 minutes, I was really surprised and impressed. Not that it was like the greatest thing I'd ever seen, but it was more competent than I expected those first 15 minutes.
Right. Yeah, I got you. Oh.
But then I watched the rest.
All right, let's go into the IMDb. Well, it's not even an IMDb. I sort of had to cobble together the info here from
It's the TMDB is the
right,
website,
like the
actually.
the B movie
The movie
database. Yeah,
database.
yeah. In addition to the Chris, wait, is it Chris Ullman? I have his name like right here in front of me. The Ullman.com website or whatever, where he basically talks about the entire production of this. So yeah, once again, this is James O'Barr's The Crow, and it's 1 hour, and it's rated R for violence that you can barely see through the scratchy black and white. And this premiered January 1st, 1998. And here's a synopsis. A film adaptation of James O'Barr's graphic novel, The Crow, was created from 1994 to 1998. A year after his own tragic death, a young man rises from the grave to seek vengeance for the brutal murder of his fiancée. Through painful flashbacks, he relives their deaths and remembers their life together. Donning a sinister, mime-like visage, he stalks the murky alleyways and rain-slicked city streets, determined to exact a terrible and bloody revenge upon the gang that killed them. And in case you haven't figured it out, The Crow was created by James O'Barr, published by Caliber Comics all the way back in 1989. And the directors of this piece of cinema are David Ullman. And after this, it appears he pretty much does is involved with the music department of a lot of indies. Some movie called The Bookseller, something else called Uncropped. And then we have one half of the Young Bucks, Matt Jackson. I had to. And it looks like he's really gone on as a producer, working on big titles such as The Killer, The Autopsy of Jane Doe, Molly's Game, and many, many more. He's got stuff in development right now. I don't know why he soared, but David Ullman kind of didn't. I mean, if this is even the right Matt Jackson, I'm sure there's quite a few people named that. But that was taken straight from the bmoviedatabase.com. So if that info is not right, you blame them. And of course, the writer, I guess, is technically supposed to be James O'Barr, since they said on the David Ullman website that they took everything directly from the graphic novel, so that was their script. And I love the name of their little production company, ND Films. Ah, see, get it, ND, Yahel, get it.
So
Yeah.
good.
All right, so who are some of the superstars who were in James O'Barr's The Crow?
Well, you mentioned Matt Jackson. He also stars as the Skull Cowboy.
Hmm.
David Ullman, he plays Eric Draven slash the Crow. Heather Popa plays Shelley. Andy Peterson, Tom Tom. Ken Starcher, T-Bird. Corey Steele plays Funboy. And Rick Moss, not that Rick Moss, plays Tintin.
Nice. All right, so we'll attempt to talk through this.
Well, I mean, I felt like, and again, I haven't seen the original, but so much of this is just like a couple scenes of the crow remembering something.
Hmm.
Then he goes to talk to somebody. Then he kills everybody in that room.
Yes, yes,
Rinse
yes.
and repeat.
That's yeah, that well, goodbye everybody. That's our episode. No, yeah, there's way more of the Crow slash Eric brooding, sitting around thinking about his past than I mean that stuff was in the main movie, but it was definitely cut down. As Yahel said, this movie could definitely do with a trim. It should be maybe half an hour, if not even less than that. Like, we get it.
Hmm.
You're upset that your fiance's dead and you're not. Like, we don't need to see it that much. But yeah, I mean, I just have a couple of notes here, just to give people an idea of what their of what James O'Barr's Crow is all about. Which, of course, you can go watch this for free on YouTube. There will be a link in the description, and there's also like an extended documentary that I guess you can purchase off this. It's called Lunch Meat VHS, which that's how I found out about this film. Is I guess I follow them on Facebook, and they started talking about James O'Barr's The Crow. So you can blame them, you hell, if you want to.
I do.
So basically, it starts out, I guess, very similarly to the Crow movie. You see a bunch of sort of industrial like sites and warehouses, which I guess this is supposed to be Detroit, because I think that's where the original Crow takes place. And it's in black and white, and there's all this deep, brooding narration on top of it. Then we see an alleyway. Oh no! Before that, Eric Draven crawls out of the grave and rips off his shirt and everything. I think that like what do you think of like the editing for this film, basically?
Um, Sometimes it's good,
Mm-hmm.
competent. Like I said, sometimes it's even interesting,
Mm-hmm.
but the more it goes on, like I would say, particularly from like the 20-minute mark forward, which is over half the movie, I found it a lot of times distracting and confusing,
Sure.
where you would kind of get lost and I'd be like, what the fuck even happened in this scene? Especially if there were like more than two people in the scene. Um, and like if people started getting shot or killed or whatever, it would sometimes be hard to like follow the action.
Right.
What did you think?
Oh yeah, I agree. I think it's funny they do a pretty decent job having like the sort of montages. Sometimes I feel like they actually it's weird it seemed like they lifted some footage like straight from the movie. Like do you remember towards the end of this film where he shows up to talk to I think it's like Fun Boy or something and then an actual crow jumps onto the windowsill. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I remember that. You think that was from the
Oh,
movie?
I 100%. I think the DVD must
I,
have come out after a while, and they lifted it straight from that.
oh, maybe. Yeah, I assumed it was like just National Geographic, something like
Oh, they
that.
have plenty of that too. But we'll get there. So two thugs are talking. They're trying to have a drug deal. Then one knifes the other. Eric takes off his shirt. Eric wanders into his attic, where I guess this is supposed to be him in a hat. He monologues about the death of Eric's wife slash murder. And I guess this is supposed to be like his bad like demons like talking him down or whatever. That is right, right? The guy with the hat is him, right?
I was very confused about who he was the entire film. In fact, I only wrote one note.
And that is.
I hope, and this was directed at you. I hope you can explain this movie to me.
I'll do my
and,
best.
and and not having watched the original,
Hmm.
like I didn't have a frame of reference for any of the more confusing plot points.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna do my best here. So, Tintin and some other thugs meet out, and it looks like it's an actual storm, like to buy a gun. And then a guy shoots them. So I'll give them credit there, or for rather not having enough sense to go actually shoot out in an actual thunderstorm. But hey, you got to have that crow atmosphere, I guess.
Yeah.
Eric then, and there's a lot of this. He looks through pictures of him and Shelly, and then he decides to put on the crow makeup. Now they're in a train yard, and again, it all starts with the two thugs. And they're arguing in a car. Then the crow shows up and shoots one. Then he tries to get information from the other one. And then the guy gives him the information, and then the crow kills him. And then, just like Yahel said, that's pretty much the movie right there. And
Yeah. How does the crow? Because the crow is dead, right? Like he's dead or he died
mhm,
before,
mhm.
but now, but he got brought back and given
Yes.
powers.
Well, here is the
Is that explained in the actual movie in the Brandon Lee movie?
yeah, and I think maybe it's explained in the narration, which you can hardly like sort of understand.
Oh, the audio mixing is
Yes,
in
audio,
some scenes is oof.
but
Ooh, it's not as bad if you're wearing headphones.
mhm,
Like I watched the first 15 minutes or so while doing cardio, so I was wearing like my nice Google Pixel earbuds,
ooh,
and I bring that up because like they tend to make bad things that sound like shit sound better and
mhm,
like separate things out.
sure,
Um, and then when I went to watch it on my TV, even though I've got like a decent sound bar, I was like, oh, this is like hard to understand.
yeah, 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 yeah. I was watching it on
So headphones,
right.
if you want to watch
Yeah,
this,
there you
headphones.
go. But no, basically the legend is sometimes a crow can bring a soul back from the underworld if that soul had died under, I don't know, shady circumstances. And that's a
Sure.
bad paraphrasing. Um, yeah. And yeah, so there's a montage and there's a horse for some reason in pain. And that made me laugh because that's just like such typical sort of student film art school kind of bullshit. It just cracked me up, and it's obvious that it's stock footage as well. But
Yeah.
hey, they were 14. They're trying. Um,
Yeah.
then again, some bad guys are sitting around a table. The crow shows up and he kills everyone. And earlier you were saying how the editing makes you feel confused. And I would say it definitely happens during the action because it's obvious that, they can't do. It's weird. Sometimes they have guns firing, but most of the time they don't. And they
Right.
usually the crow.
There's like a white flash on the screen or something.
Yes. Usually when the crow's about to kill someone, he like points the gun like off a frame and then they cut. So they don't have to like pay for blanks or whatever.
Yeah.
And depending on what they cut to can be very confusing. So I will say it's funny in the scene here. They have one of those classic sort of clamp work lights as their lighting hanging over, and that was sort of just it was a staple of low budget filmmaking back in the day. I had some clamp lights as well. I just want to let everybody know that. So yeah, the overweight guy in this scene, I wrote down cannot act, but that's okay.
Oh God, the guy that looks like Andy Milonakis.
Yeah.
That's one thing we should mention. I mean, like, because they are
Mm-hmm.
14 and a lot of this movie is like their friends. There's a few adults
Mm-hmm.
in the movie here and there, but a lot of this is like, kids in their teens, and sometimes they put on these weird like
Oh yeah,
accents.
weird voices and stuff. Yeah, yeah.
I think the guy you're talking about, the overweight guy, didn't he put on like some weird like accent? Was he trying to sound like a New Yorker or something,
Uh,
or like a mob guy?
yeah,
It was
I
weird.
can't remember what this guy was sounding like. I wrote down like the two that are the most blatant. I think they're coming up soon. But yeah, but it doesn't matter because the crow shoots him, and then we don't have to deal with his bad acting anymore. Then here's another sort of reused kind of scene. The crow wanders the city with deep dark narration going on.
Mm.
So the crow then once again sits in his attic with a cat, thinking about his dead girlfriend, which is the most typically goth thing you could possibly do, I think. And then he thinks back to a scene, and man, this is the most awkward looking thing ever, where Shelly, his girlfriend, is leaning up against the tree, and he's leaning up against her, and she's reading to him like he's like mentally disabled or something, like he's just learning.
Yeah. I mean, I guess it's from the comic,
Yeah,
but it looks, yeah, it's very awkward scene. It doesn't look great. And isn't she reading to him? Isn't he like, "Oh, you always wanted a cat," and then she's like reading to him about cats or something?
something. I couldn't really make it out too well, but I'm going to ask you, Yahel, how many times have you let one of your girlfriends read to you like that?
Oh, all the time, Steve. You just go find a good tree and you
What do
just.
you guys read? A little Danielle Steele, a little
Oh, I just have her read about whatever animal she wants as a pet to me.
Okay, all right, sounds legit.
Just classic goth crow stuff,
Right,
bro.
yeah. What's Sylvia Plath, right? That's like the real like goth bitch that everyone loves, more or less.
Bitch, wow,
Yeah.
wow,
I don't know, that's the all
wow.
right, goth. I don't know, why not? That sounds good, right?
Writer?
Sure, writer, yes. A them, they, he, her, she, them writer who specializes in the goth genre. All right,
Right.
moving on. So the crow, we did that, and then there's another sort of montage of the footage, and then we get up on the screen it says fear. So they have this divvied up, I guess, into chapters, and they're all kind of the same. But first, we start here with fear. The crow continues to brood, and there's more girlfriend flashbacks. He tries to slit his wrists, but since he's already dead, he can't. And then he tapes up his arms, and I wrote down, this is the longest wrist cutting scene in wrist cutting history. Would you back me up on that?
Yes, I would.
Eh,
A lot of these scenes felt like the longest blank in history at one point or another, but yes, I agree.
Indeed. So now some bad guys with dumb voices, they stab a kid just out of nowhere. But of course, they're all the same age, so I guess it's okay. Then the crow kills them in the dark in a very confusing scene, but not before getting info that he needs to go to Gideon's pawn to get his wedding ring back. So the crow breaks through the window, which was, I guess, kind of impressive. Um, he stabs the clerk in the hand and he asks for his wedding ring back.
Oh man, there's some real weird audio editing here
Mm,
too, with the guy screaming
mm,
like, cause it's like he screams like a long scream, but then I guess it was gonna cut over the audio of whatever the crow was gonna say.
mm.
So they like turned it down, they like lowered it.
Yeah,
So the scream is like descending in volume unnaturally.
right.
It's still like the same force of the scream, but
Mm.
just going down in volume, and it sounds weird as hell.
Oh yeah, that's when you asked me about fan films. I guess nowadays the sound mix is usually pretty good, but yeah, back in the day they could be awful.
Yeah,
Um,
because at least now too, like lapel mics are like really inexpensive. You can get a decent one, so you can like just put it under people's clothes
right,
and get have a separate audio track for everybody
sure.
if you're smart.
If you're smart, yes. So
Yeah.
the crow and this scene, the whole Gideon's Pawn thing, is also in the Brandon Lee version. He takes a bunch of guns and then he blows the place up by throwing matches into a gas can. And then we get a shot of like a police guy looking at photos, and his name is Captain Peter Hook, who is the bass player for the band Bauhaus. I don't know if the James O'Barr did that on purpose when he was writing it, but unlike Ernie Hudson in the Brandon Lee movie, this police guy has like nothing to do with like the main story and the plot,
Yeah.
basically.
This is one of the few like adults in the movie too. This
Yes.
guy's like balding
Mm-hmm.
and overweight
Yeah,
and just
questioning his life choices.
hmm
Was like, why am I being in this movie with these kids? Oh, it's so the barista down the street will like me. Is what I'm assuming. Anyway, so the police guy looks at photos. Then the crow, guess what, Yahel? He broods again because he's always brooding,
mm.
and this time he
Mm.
remembers Christmas. And then the crow walks around the city again, and then he talks to a little girl and gives her Shelley's ring, a wedding ring. And I remember there's a kid in the Brandon Lee movie, and I will say the kid in the Brandon Lee movie is a little bit better at acting than this little girl here. Uh,
Well, it's a low bar.
an O bar, if you will. Think about it. Okay. The crow once again walks the city, and then the crow interrupts a man and a woman who are doing heroin. I guess they're supposed to be like post coitus. He tells the girl to leave, so she does. Then he tries to get info from the dude, and I forgot. This is the one where he decides not to kill the dude. I can't remember.
Well, I don't think this guy had done anything except just be a drug user.
Right. Well, you don't realize that the Crow, underneath all the makeup, he's very right wing. He doesn't he doesn't want
He's
anyone
very
doing
conservative.
drugs. Yeah. Thus, he then rips down a smiley face poster as he's exiting the room. Which I mean, I guess,
Yeah, he's like, Joy, smile. What is this? A Kamala poster?
yeah,
Rips it down.
right.
Yeah, real weird from 1994 that he mentions her.
Really weird. So then I wrote down we get more brooding time with the Crow, and then we get another title page that says irony. Then another montage. Then the Crow loads up his guns. Then he loads up a syringe and shoots himself up. What kind of role model is this for our kids, Yahel?
Yeah, I thought that was weird.
Yeah, he did not do heroin in the Brandon Lee movie, I will say. He enters the bad guy's sort of clubhouse. He jumps up on the table and kicks over beer bottles, then shoots the guys. Then he and Funboy have a talk. And then we get another title. He doesn't kill Funboy just yet. He promises him a quick death if he like does something for him. And then we
Yeah.
see another title card, Despair. And then we get more flashback. He remembers the night he was killed, which basically, and I would say this is one of the differences I pointed out from the Brandon Lee movie. In the Brandon Lee movie, basically, he and his fiance or whatever are hanging out in their room. I can't remember if they were gonna have sex or not, but I guess it doesn't matter. Then, like, Tintin and T Bird and all those guys just happen to show up, and they kill him and grape her, and then kill
Mm.
her. Where here, and this is more in line with what actually happened to James O'Barr. They're driving, and then they're pulled over by the gang and killed on the side of the road. And I don't know if you were reading, Yahel, but James O'Barr's fiance was killed by a drunk driver, and he basically created the Crow to deal with the anger, basically.
Oh no, I did not read that.
Yep. So in other words, this is gonna make a great Saturday morning cartoon. I don't know why it never happened.
I mean, it wouldn't have surprised me because I mean, like Rambo got a
Rambo,
Saturday morning cartoon.
RoboCop,
James Bond,
Toxic
RoboCop.
Avengers, yeah, all that stuff. But this came out in the 90s and not the 80s, so it just didn't happen.
Hmm.
So let's see. More Crow brooding. I thought it was funny. They showed him blowing a dandelion in slow motion, which is like the sort of cheesiest sort of art house thing you can do. He then decides to burn all of his photos. Then we get another title, Death. The crow, the crow then talks to the little girl again. It's all so awkwardly filmed.
Yeah. Is this when she's like, "Oh, I really missed you.
Yeah, yeah. Her voice is so high. It's
I
like,
missed you so
yeah.
much, Crow." But she just met him like that one time. That's it. So
Right. And you don't even like really understand what even their relationship is that I know of. He just sort of shows up and they start talking, right? There's really no.
yeah, like when she's on the stoop in the
Hmm.
first scene that they interact, he's just like, "Oh, you mind if I sit here while?" I think she's like waiting for her mom or something, and she's like, "Oh yeah, I don't care.
Yeah.
I love strangers.
Yeah. Right. That could.
I'm a juggalo too."
There you go. So let's see. Then, all right. Here's a scene that I feel like could be probably edited out. There's some firefighters, and they're looking around for Captain Hook, aka the one adult police guy from before. But then these firefighters are also adults too. I don't know if they just wanted to have a little bit of production value by like they found some firefighters on the side of the road and be like, "Hey, can we film you and you can say a few lines for us?" And they're just like, "Sure, kid." Uh,
Oh, so he actually talks about David Ullman talks about that on his website
mhm,
that they basically found out that there was going to be a house or building nearby that was going to be burned down by the fire department, like to practice,
mhm.
basically. And they were able to like film it ahead of time, film scenes of him going in there, and then also film them actually like fighting the fire,
Nice. Yeah, I mean
whatever
that
they do.
is.
So,
I mean that's how you.
which is pretty cool. I
Yeah.
mean,
I mean, in all the film books that I've read about indie filmmaking, like they say that's the kind of stuff that you need to do to, to get those shots that would otherwise be, super expensive.
mhm.
Um, let's see.
Yeah. I mean, well, I'll wait till the end.
So the bad guys talk about the crow. One bad guy does heroin. Um, and then that's when the crow from the movie shows up, where they take an actual clip from the movie and put it in there, which is pretty funny. The crow then confronts Funboy again, and then makes Funboy do a bunch of heroin while he cuts himself. Really unnerving
Yeah, it felt
scene.
it felt weirdly sexual.
Yeah, it
Like,
was so bizarre. Yeah.
yeah, because like Funboy is like basically the crow promised him a painless death, which I guess just means he's gonna let him OD
Mm,
on heroin that the crow
right.
has for reasons. And yeah, then as he's ODing, the crow is like very slowly like cutting his own like chest and
Right.
stomach and like and even at one point is kind of like ooh, like making like a face. I think it's supposed to be pain, but I thought at first it was like him in
It's like
ecstasy.
gold
So
dust.
it,
Yeah.
yeah, and then with the actors being so young, it comes off like I
Yeah.
don't know. It's a little weird to
It's
watch.
grimy for sure, and I would say like the sort of self harm or him cutting himself and him doing drugs. Yeah, this is stuff they did not have in the regular Brandon Lee
Yeah,
Crow movie.
but it is in the comic from what I read.
Right, and I guess this is what David Ullman was all about. He's like, man, this movie just isn't the same without the crow cutting himself and doing drugs. I'm gonna make my own movie where he does that stuff with
Right?
hookers and blow. Uh, so now we're with T-Bone. He's basically the last guy that the crow hasn't killed. He's driving around in his car and smoking a pipe, which I thought was funny. Made him look like, I don't know, the Gorton's fisherman or something along those
Yeah,
lines. I'm like, what a
yeah,
hipster back in 1994, smoking a
yeah.
pipe. So the crow, of course, is in the back seat. You never see the crow like arrive or even like go into the back. He's just there, and of course he has a gun. And then he shoots T-Bone's hand, and they go outside the car. The crow roughs him up, and then shoots him. What I think is implied is supposed to be the crotch. Is that right?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, all right. So I'm glad to see we're on the same page with that. Uh, have you ever heard anyone say that the crow is just goth RoboCop?
No,
Well,
that's funny
there
though.
you go. And here he is shooting a guy in the dick, just like Robo would. Um, so the crow then, let's see, the crow, of course, he takes off his shirt and dares T-Bird to shoot him. The crow takes out his hammer. T-Bird shoots him, but of course it doesn't do anything. And then, yeah, the crow basically goes to town on him with a hammer, but they cut away, so you really don't get to see too much. And then basically, old Crowy, he wanders his way back to the grave where he started, his wife's grave, and it's raining. I forgot to mention, like, so there's a lot of shots with rain, and I'm pretty
Hmm.
sure they must have made their own sort of rain machine, right? Did they ever say anything about that on the website?
I don't. I if they. I mean, I kind of skimmed the thing on the website, so I didn't see anything on it.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe there is. But then again, like I don't know, it was filmed over 4 years. I mean, plenty of chances to have it rain
Oh,
for those 4 years, I
now
guess.
these guys live in Ohio, I think, if I was reading correctly. Not the most rainy of states, but I've never been there. I don't know. But yeah, I guess yeah, over 4 years. I guess if you really pay attention to the Weather Channel, you can be like, "Oh, look, we got one. Let's get out there, boys." And
Yeah, yeah, I guess so.
hmm but I was reading that they actually sort of finished it in 1 year, but David Ullman was such a perfectionist that he wanted to go back and reshoot and re-edit and do a lot of other stuff, and that's why it ended up taking 4 years. But anyway, yeah,
Hmm.
so that is basically yeah. He wanders back to his wife's grave. It's raining, and he dies. The end. That is the end of James O'Barr's The Crow. And anything else to add before we render our verdict, Mr. Velasquez?
No. Let's do
Okay.
it.
Remembered or obliterated? That is the question.
All right, Mr. Velasquez, do you think that James O. Barr's The Crow fan film should be remembered for all of human history or tossed in the black void of obscurity, never to be heard from again?
No, it's a no for me. I mean, I could only recommend this to somebody who is like a super diehard Crow fan.
Mm-hmm.
The same way I wouldn't recommend just about any Star Trek film to any Star Trek fan unless they're like a super hardcore Star Trek fan. Like it's if it was shorter, maybe. Um, and I mean, I will say like for these being like 14-year-old kids, there is like some good, well done stuff in here. You can tell that they like took it seriously and that they had a passion for it. So I mean, I don't mean to shit on them
They're grown men now. It's okay.
or their
Yeah.
effort because I mean they obviously put work into it. They must still be proud of it. I mean, David Ullman's still like writing about it and all this other stuff. So, but as far as like an hour of your day to watch it, mm, I can't recommend it.
Yeah, you make a lot of good points there. There's definitely passion and blood, sweat, and tears in this fan film from two guys who obviously really loved The Crow. But the question, yeah, I kept asking myself is like, I'm like, why would I want to watch this when it's very similar to the superior Brandon Lee movie? As
Yeah.
Eric Bischoff says, you can be better than, different than, or less than, and it's not different
Th-
enough. If
yeah, it comes off as less than.
Yeah, it's mostly less than. I will say that David Ullman is a pretty good Crow. I would say,
Oh yeah, yeah. We didn't really talk about him as the Crow.
yeah, he took it very seriously. I mean, he pretty much acts like Brandon Lee. I mean, if you read on his website, he was saying like that's who he was going for at first, but then I don't know. Supposedly he used his own trauma to really like find the character for himself. I mean, he looks the part. He
Yeah.
acts pretty well, and that's what leads me to believe that in some ways I'm like, is this a little bit of a vanity project where the guy is just like,
Oh, I mean, of course it's a vanity project.
yeah. So then, yeah, because like he saw the movie and was like, I wanna be the Crow so I can hook up with goth girls down at the castle in Ohio. It's a chain, don't you know, Yahel? It's a chain.
Yeah.
Um,
But I mean, like you said, I mean, he does do a good job
mhm,
playing the part. He takes it seriously. He's probably I mean, not probably, he is like the best actor in the movie.
mhm.
He does a decent job. Again, like you can see that there's some talent here.
Sure.
Um,
Yeah.
and I mean, this is better than I would have done at 14. You
You
know.
could watch some of my early work. I would say it's similar, also filmed in black and white for some reason. But yeah, for an hour of your day, that's tough watch. I would say, if
It was like a tight 20.
yeah, like if you're a young filmmaker who is afraid of getting started, I mean, maybe you could watch this and be like, look, these two guys just did it like no matter what. And that
Yeah,
in and of itself is like a powerful lesson. But if you're just a
sure.
regular, if you're looking for something to watch, it's going to be a pretty tough watch for you. So,
Yeah, I would say like this film is both ambitious and not ambitious. It's ambitious because it's an hour long.
mm,
They have like a lot of shots. They have a decent amount of different locations and stuff.
hmm,
Although after a little while, you start seeing the same locations reused.
right,
But at the same time, because they're just copying the film
right,
and the comic book, like they even say that's what we used for our script,
mm,
it's also not that ambitious
right.
in that sense. So it's
Like
weird,
if they
man.
wanted to
If it would
take
have
The
been,
Crow in like an entirely new direction, like uh,
yeah, do like 20 tight minutes of something of a different take
yeah,
on the Crow.
listen up, David Ullman. The Crow 2099. Wait, no, they kind of did that in the second movie because that takes place in the future or something. But all right, anyway, I think we've unfortunately, it's going to be a forgotten. I think overall, but I would say almost a stalemate. But yeah. So James O'Barr's The Crow shall be obliterated. Here we go.
The heathens have spoken. You are obliterated.
It's like an Oh, still going?
No, we're good.
Oh, it's like an obliterated, but with like an asterisk of A for effort.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. There's a lot of passion here, no doubt about it. And I mean, these guys are still working on stuff, so I'm sure they probably learned a lot while they were working on it. And next time, hopefully, they got some lighting and a few other people to help out. But
Yeah.
But yeah, I was thinking for Obscurity Now TV network, I see the Crow Saturday morning cartoon playing right after Silk Stockings Jr. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. That's quite the block.
All right. Well, I think that's going to do it. Anything else to add? You want to talk about your projects or anything before we sign off here?
No, I mean, I'm just working on a video covering the history and making of NBA Jam, and hopefully that'll be out in the next couple of weeks.
Oh, wow. Sports. Treading new territory.
Yeah. Well, it's NBA Jam sports.
It's the most fun sports.
Sports adjacent.
Yeah, true that. Only 3 pages left on Escape to Earth number 3, and then I'll finally be off to the printers. Like it's only taken half a year. I feel like we're on the Image shipping schedule from the 90s. Basically.
You're a real Rob Liefeld.
Without the fame and the money. But yeah. All right, well.
But hey, you do have those Levi's 501 button-up jeans.
Oh, I certainly do. Somewhere. All right. Well, thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for listening. Make sure you subscribe and tell all your friends. It would really help us fight the algorithm. And I don't know. I doubt I'm going to be watching that Crow remake anytime soon. But hopefully, the next time we have a podcast, we can at least discuss Wolverine and Deadpool. Eh, buddy? Maybe not. Huh?
Yeah, maybe. We'll see.
All right. Well, we will see you next time as we continue to discuss more obscure media only on Obscurity Now. Bye-bye.
You've been enjoying Obscurity Now, a podcast that's recorded live to tape and streamed to Twitch and YouTube. Subscribe so you never miss an episode or hilarious quip. Take us with you by following the download links provided in the show notes to wherever you get podcasts. And take notice of our various social media links. If that's what you're into, I'm not here to judge. And make sure you join us live next week at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific as we continue to discuss more obscure media only on Obscurity Now.